Hi, everyone. We're fortunate today with all the news percolating around the planet to have one of the best news traders on the globe with us today, Adam Button from Forex Live and at FX_Button. So, Alex, why don't we start with something that hasn't happened in 50 years at the minimum since it did happen on the same day, 50 years later, from the Yom Kippur War. That too was a Sabbath when, not just Hamas came at Israel, but multiple countries came at them, Egypt, etc. So how do you trade a war?
Well, I
Adam?
think, yeah. So the question is, right now, if it's Israel Gaza, it's probably non-tradable. I mean, you've seen a lot of that premium come out. The question is if it's more of a U.S. Iran war, then that's a
Okay.
whole different story, right?
Yeah, that is.
That is really the question right now. There's a Wall Street Journal kind of leak today saying that 500 Palestinians got specialized training in Iran for the attack as late as September. So a few weeks
Yeah.
ago. And then we have at the highest levels officials in the U.S. saying, we don't have any evidence that Iran had anything to do with it. Meanwhile, the U.S. is rolling into the Mediterranean with some major ships and saying it's to defend Israel. I mean, what if it's to attack Iran or counterattack Iran? Or maybe it's just preparedness. We're talking about delays today. So we saw today there was a story about a delay on the U.S. invasion first in the Wall Street Journal. So these are kind of back-to-back leaks. Story delay in the Israeli invasion for a few days while they get air defense set up around some American military bases. Makes as an odd thing because obviously those bases have air defense already. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, so what I'm pondering, and I think what the market maybe is even pondering here, is what if this is a bit of a smokescreen and the U.S. is really going to get involved in a big war here? And then the question that you ask is, okay, what's the trade if that happens? So it's obviously gold, it's obviously oil. And I think the risk reward on oil is certainly a lot better than it was a week ago.
A lot better than gold, which has already rallied $170, and we've had this pullback in crude. It's putting in a nice day here, and I think this was enough, don't you, Adam, to have shaken out the people who bought oil on the day of the massacre.
It really is lined up nicely because I even saw a few of them like on Twitter today, kind of throwing in the towel, saying it was an obvious fate. I mean, these were bulls, right?
Right.
And that's, generally a good time to get in. Again, 84 with the risk of a war. I mean, it's obviously $100 if bombs start falling in Iran in any, significant numbers. Yeah, I guess the other question is whether the U.S., say it does bomb Iran, is it just military infrastructure? Is it military and government? Is it military, government, and oil? Or then does Saudi start to pump, right? They don't mind the U.S. and Iran fighting. They do have some extra oils out there. So, but again, I still think that's $100. I mean, you take out all the extra Saudi capacity.
Well, what if what about the Strait of Hormuz, Adam?
Well, yeah, I mean, just the possibilities of things that could happen would be so. And then you think about things like defense stocks, bonds. Those are kind of the four avenues that I think of. Maybe I don't know. I'm kind of open to whatever some war trades might be aside from those.
Do you think the weakness here in the market on the verge of closing? They took out 42, the S&Ps, early in the week. 42 was a pretty big level. Once we on the left, that's when we got parabolic with things like NVIDIA, which NVIDIA was down sharply last week because of the restriction of chips. I don't know why stocks like Amazon looks like it's breaking down. The Magnificent Seven, the only one that's really holding up okay is Apple. And under this 200-day, it's going to look pretty vulnerable to me. So do you think the war is behind this latest run to the downside in the market, or is it still yields?
I mean, I think it's a lot of things. Yeah, it's mainly yields. I don't know if I'm selling stock so much on war. I mean, that's certainly not good for stocks, but these things, they ran way too far. And we've seen it, right? They've come off on earnings. Google's down, I don't know, 8% today on
Yeah,
earnings.
yeah,
Tesla fell on earnings. These
yeah.
are fundamental drivers. Yeah, Microsoft was good. Amazon's today, market sniffing out some bad. Nvidia fell first on earnings. And again, these companies are trading at like 50, 70 times earnings. Some of them, maybe not, not Microsoft, or especially after that earnings report. But, and then you think, look, like the Russell, I think gives you a better idea of really what's happened in the market. Like we think of this kind of a decent year for the market, but like you said, it was the Magnificent Seven and nothing else. And the rest of the market is at the lows of the year. So if you strip out those 7 stocks that have held everything together, or even just flatline them, then everything starts to look pretty bad. The Fed is clearly not going to be cutting until there's some real pain. Yeah,
Well, how
regional
about
banks
this? The regionals are on their way back to the March levels. They're not that far away. They're a couple of bucks. This is
I
the
mean,
regional
bonds are down
index.
another 20% in the last month or so. That's those hold to maturity losses are just staggering. Bank of America was soft on earnings. So like, the earnings numbers are rolling in and the market doesn't like them. So what's, unless the Fed starts cutting, what's the catalyst, right? Yeah, the economy's decent, but you're not going to have another quarter of 5% US growth. So, maybe you start to look towards the end of next year and the Fed cutting, but I just think there has to be a lot of kicking and screaming in the market before the Fed actually goes through with it.
Okay. I know that last time I talked to you, you were bearish risk, and you got bearish euro up around, I don't know, 110-ish or so, up there 111 before it turned down. I'm looking for 102, which would be about 61.8 back on the weekly for a long-term buy. Can you think of anything that would turn the dollar? It would have to be yields, wouldn't you think, that would turn the dollar?
I mean, it's interesting today, and it'll be interesting if the bonds do start falling. If we didn't have much of a rally in bonds when Gaza happened, despite all the risks and
Yeah,
despite every
not
other
at
market.
all.
Today, again, a bit of, oil's kind of coming back, stocks, getting hammered even as we speak. And, bonds can't get a bid. You wonder about QE, if it's really been such a big factor, maybe underestimated by everyone, even the bears, at how much that was suppressing yields. Number 2, deficits. These wars get expensive, so maybe the market kind of looks past that and doesn't take the safety trade. I don't know. But yeah, you got to imagine there would be a bid in bonds at some point, but is on a war bid in bonds, it's not turning around the US dollar on that kind of safe haven. So, again, I think the worst thing for the US dollar would be a stumble in the US economy, peace in the
Okay.
world,
Okay.
and deficits, somebody taking care of deficits.
Okay.
For
the first time, like here's a 10-year, Adam, and I was noticing this, that we are diverging here at this last high. And
well,
to me,
if it doesn't get through 5, right now, you've got at least a technical basis to buy the euro, and if you can get the euro down 102, stall out on yields, at least. I mean, there's something.
what are you expecting from the ECB? We have ECB this week.
I mean, they gotta be. I think it'll be the Bank of Canada would be very similar to what we saw today. Yeah, we still have a hiking bias. Yeah, but we didn't hike. Things are slowing down. Let's wait and see. Let monetary policy do its thing. So that's pretty normal at this phase. The always thing about interesting about the ECB is there's always a bit of a fight in the room. And there especially is right now with all the talks. But I think it's pretty clear that Europe's slowing down. And
okay, so even cable's even weaker. I guess the interest rate differential is more in favor of the dollar against the pound than against the euro.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of risk trade in the pound as well. And I mean, I like the pound better than the euro, but even this week they came out with the jobs data and they said their own data can't be relied on. and you're thinking, what am I doing trading this currency? Like, you're one of the biggest economies in the world, and you can't put together a jobs report. And this is going to persist for a while. And you're trying to make monetary policy, and you don't have, the
Yeah.
single most important data point. I'm not a huge bear on sterling, but I don't like it. I'm a pretty big dollar bull right now, to be honest with you.
Okay. Commodity currencies. Also, I'm actually thinking about maybe taking a stab at Aussie around the 62 range.
Well,
And, go ahead.
that is a bit more interesting to me. China, I'm surprised that Chinese stocks didn't do well. I mean, if we got these higher deficit numbers yesterday, they're going to spend and borrow, classical stimulus in China.
They're going to
Xi
try.
yesterday visited the central bank and the sovereign wealth fund for the first time he'd ever done, at least officially. And then we had this big jump in all these Chinese stocks in US trading, because he did this after China closed. And then China opened up, and it, like, nothing happened. It did not. And now we're kind of right back, right?
Yeah.
But China is on a different kind of economic track than the rest of the world. And that's the divergence you want in FX. And that's your Aussie dollar trade. So yeah, maybe China, the expectations are pretty low for next year. It does seem they have room to cut. Inflation's low. So maybe you kind of get China perking up. I could make a lot of arguments against that, but I do think if there's somewhere I want to lean against dollar strength, especially on an overshoot, it would be Aussie, because we're about to go into a cutting cycle, right? It's just a matter of, I don't know what the timing is on it but at this time next year, we'll be in a global easing cycle. We're better to be.
I remember last time you said the one big fear you have is the Chinese just letting the yuan go. Are you still worried about that?
Well, I mean,
there's a chart. Yeah.
You can only fit so many worries into the time. It kind of goes on the back burner after this war in Gaza, but it's, this China-US struggle, it's obviously going to be a generational fight.
China has destroyers in the area.
Well, the more seems to be like a virus, right? If one person goes to war, and it seems like an opportunity for someone else. So I don't think China is going to get involved in Iran, but they might take the opportunity to get involved with Taiwan. I don't know.
Don't you think
the war that I'm more interested in with China is over autos? I mean, they are cranking out, it looks like, pretty good automobiles, electric automobiles, for prices that Germany can't compete with. Japan's trying to push back. The US, I don't know what kind of state the automotive industry is in there. This strike could go on forever. And that they're coming for, and that you're not competing really. Like, I don't think China's going to flood cars into the US, but where are Brazilians going to be buying their cars from, or Indians, or people in Africa, or Southeast Asia? I think it's a good bet that it's going to be Chinese cars. And that currency, soft currency, I believe, helps that trade.
That helps, yeah. So there's the yuan.
For Germany, it's existential to win that battle. I just don't. They don't have the cars, it looks like.
And could that be why Tesla had to cut prices? And there's another cult stock that took it pretty hard last week. You're talking about EVs. Look at Tesla. I'm looking for double-digit prices in Tesla, which means under $100 sometime next year.
You look at earnings for next year, and they're supposed to grow. Grow pretty substantially are the estimates. And meanwhile, if you want a car loan, it's 9% now. If you have bad credit, it's like 15.
Yeah.
There's no killer app coming out like the Cybertruck. Even if it does roll out and people like it, they're not going to. Even Musk himself said they're not going to manufacture many next year. So, how many people are queued up for Model Ys and Model X's, and I just don't know if there's really that much growth in earnings next year.
Yeah.
And then you go again to, like, say, $3 earnings next year. Well, what's the multiple on that? It's like 85. That's just seems.
The formation technically measures to just above $100. It's a $90 range that we're trying to break down out of. So pretty weak. And even Jamie Dimon's stock is on the verge. Looks
Look at
like
that.
Wile E. Coyote just sitting on the 200-day.
I'm not betting against Jamie. Now
Huh?
I'm
Jamie's
not betting
shorting.
against
He's
Jamie.
shorting his own stock right now
You gotta be crazy.
and buying Bitcoin. Oh, you know what? Have you been following this Bitcoin, Adam? Because I
Well,
thought Bitcoin was going to come under pressure with equities and a strong dollar, and it has been in its own universe, really, hasn't it?
well, this is
I was
it's the
wrong.
ETF story, right? So the ETF is, to me, this is obviously happening. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
understand how this isn't 100% priced in. The ETFs are coming. I mean, that's a done deal. Um, so to me, it's like the most obvious sell the fact in history. And the only question I have is it sell the fact on the announcement that the ETFs are coming or on the first trade of the ETFs?
yeah,
Because anyone who's wanted to buy Bitcoin for the last 5 years at least has had 100 different ways to do it.
yeah,
So I just don't see how many, and this might be exit liquidity. Obviously, there's a huge front run going on right now, and they are expecting some kind of pop to whatever 40,000, 40, or whatever they can dream up, and they're all
yeah,
selling. I mean, this is a trade right now.
yeah. This was a
Maybe Iran maybe adds to it, but I mean, I'm a seller of one of those two events, and I just haven't decided which one yet because an ETF is not getting Bitcoin back to new highs.
okay.
That's
I
just
mean, we are
not.
approaching what used to be pretty important support at this 35 level. I don't know what to do with it. Before it broke out, I thought we were putting in a descending triangle and we'd break down under 25 and give me a shot at 20, but there's another one. There's another one that got away from me. Europe has actually been weaker than us. If you look at the DAX has been off the tracks for a
Look at
while,
that
and
fake breakout. Hey, what a fake out that was. It looked like Europe was finally getting it done.
yeah,
And
yeah. So I
just
mean, Europe, the European bourses have underperformed. I know that the Nikkei was what everyone loved last year,
so
and
cheap.
even that doesn't look great, does it? I mean, I can't find an equity market that looks like I should be buying across the whole planet.
And it's the same as a lot of the charts. They don't, it always kind of looks darkest before dawn, but anything with any amount of debt, like high debt, anything is just blowing out. And then you're going to have tax loss selling this year in a lot of these names. So I don't think you can buy until December. I mean, even if you look at like a Meta chart last year, right? Around this time last year, Meta was just puking. Kramer was on TV crying. Uh, I don't know if you can pull up Meta on Facebook
Oh,
there.
I don't know if
Oh, I
I
saw
have
it on
it.
your list.
Did I?
Yeah, you were just
Oh,
up a little higher there. It was right with, maybe it wasn't. Anyway, but you kind of get these washouts. Oh, it wasn't
that
with
was
that list of
Microsoft.
Microsoft, I guess.
All right, I'll
But,
pull it up.
so you get tax laws selling, which is, and people are sitting on some pretty big gains and they're going to take the capital losses this year before year end. And that's just kind of to illustrate what you got to go back to kind of last year this time. And it was just getting killed. And you see, where's
Yeah,
October
here I
20?
am.
Here we are. We're one.
Yeah,
It was like exactly today it bottomed a year ago.
yeah,
But then you kind of saw into December again, it stayed weak, right? As you get there. And then in the turn of the calendar is when it really took off.
amazing move. I mean, to me, this looks more like I should be looking to buy it on a pullback towards 200 compared to things that look like, like Tesla.
Yeah.
I don't see any pullback I want to buy here yet, or,
But the
Bank of
AI case in Meta
America.
is pretty compelling. I mean, they're going to start serving you ads that are like tailored for you by using, Dale likes blue and white shirts and needs a new set of, watch or something like you. They'll
Okay.
get, you get exact ads that kind of know all the things you like it's dystopian,
Well,
but
when will the BOJ give us the yen back to trade? The EKG on the yen is comatose.
I can't believe it's getting defended that hard. I don't, the US dollar is uniquely strong. I would have let it go to 155 by now.
Yeah.
they're talking about more stimulus in Japan, which the only way out of this for them is the Bank of Japan hiking rates. For me, do they want to try to hold it here until that happens? Yes, could that really turn it though? I don't know. Yeah, like it's just not a trade rate unless they come in, and I think that people had it right. They intervene, gets flushed down to 148 something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that
Look at
chart
that. Look,
even
look,
shows that full move. Oh,
we've
yeah,
had these,
147, whatever.
wicked wicks.
Well, that's it.
Um,
They're denying intervention. It was obviously intervention, but that's where you buy. And it's
and you
like
know
the old
what?
Swiss.
I even noticed wicks like that in gold and silver today, which you normally don't have. Are you worried about market structure and liquidity in a lot of these markets? I mean, look at this wick.
Well, we saw in
Um,
bonds, there is never enough talk of that. Bonds it's a scandal what happened in bonds during the pandemic. I mean, liquidity just evaporated in the most important market in the world, and
hasn't
it
come back.
imploded.
Yeah.
And
But you see how we're getting wick action even
yeah,
in things like, here's silver. I mean, that's a pretty good wick. I don't know
it's
how long it's stood there, but markets seem thin to me for this kind of trading to take place. That size just moves it, but it doesn't stick. Um, to me, it's a comment on market liquidity and structure that when things really get going, there's going to be problems because this
they all
isn't
pull it
how it
exactly
regularly
right.
trades.
All the algos, all the market making is machines. When
Yeah.
volatility hits too high, they just turn it off, and the liquidity is gone. And I think, and that's as a trader, you have to have your liquidity ready. I don't know if you can catch a wick like that, but
Yeah.
it's something easily 10 times that magnitude can come on, then it's just huge opportunities, especially if we're talking about war and equities. The Magnificent Seven give it up.
They have. They're already on Boot Hill.
Well,
Tell
like
me
I
what's
said,
magnificent about this. Tell me what's magnificent about this.
well, that's 3 ugly days in a row there.
All right. So, I mean, tell me, I'll pull up another Magnificent Seven. I think Google's getting hammered. A
Big
lot
time.
of them are already in the graveyard. Maybe we're seeing their ghosts. People tried to buy them again, the Mag 7 a few weeks ago, and they popped, but they're not so magnificent. If you saw the movie, these
Well,
guys
that again, even if they
were
flatline,
outdrawn.
the rest of the market starts to look so weak.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's where I'm going to be buying if it does get bad. It's not.
I mean, you've seen
Not
lots of cycles. What leads the market up many times is the same group that leads the market down. And that's what I think mega cap is going to do. Don't you?
I don't have any argument against it. I think this market needs to kick and scream before the Fed does anything. And we aren't even close to the market kicking and screaming for Fed help and rate cuts. I mean, the economy has to get a lot worse before they come in and cut. So you're going to have the Fed holding rates high, saying, too bad, so sad to
Yeah.
equities. And they're just going to kick and scream like a toddler for months, maybe. Because the inflation data lags so badly, and Powell doesn't want to screw it up. So I think they are willing to sacrifice equities more than they have been in the last couple cycles, because it didn't take much kicking and screaming to get QE going. Now,
Well,
I did note
that's their cash machine. The
that
tax
the Fed's
receipts were
Harker
down
came up, and
because of
he
it.
did this headline that got completely missed is he said we may have to reconsider how we're doing the balance sheet runoff. Now, it was kind of in question about liquidity and whatnot,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't rule out some kind of QE tweak. But is that going to save the market? That's a couple chapters away. But
What do you think? Do you think we're in the environment, especially going into next year with a presidential election here
oh
in the
man,
US, where, you know, uh, we can't even elect a Speaker of the House, let
yeah,
alone choose a
I mean, we
president?
know who the candidates are at this point, I guess, unless Donald Trump's in jail, which or Biden doesn't make her. But No, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah. So I mean,
think it's probably an opportunity at the end of the day because the U.S. can function despite the politics, but yeah, it's not. I think when I look at right now the era we're in, if you think of the last 15 years coming out of the financial crisis, it's been the era of easy money.
Yeah.
Right, the era of zero rates, cheap
Yeah.
debt. The debt wasn't a four-letter word for 15 whole years. Deficits exploded, but they didn't matter. Money was cheap everywhere. You know, it ended in the pandemic with this, cascade of just insane NFTs and whatnot. That era is ending, right? And so what's important though, when you think about politics, is during this era of easy money, and easy money means easy political decisions, right? Because nothing's easier than spending money. Now, if we're in an era of austerity or deficits, politicians need to make tough, unpopular decisions.
Yeah.
And now, in that same 15 years, politics grew insanely toxic, despite free money everywhere. And now we're going to go into an era where we're at all-time toxicity, and you may have to cut deficits. And it's depressing to think of how it looks.
That the last 15 years we'll be looking back at the good old days when a lot of people didn't even think it was that good.
What could we have built with all that free money, right? Instead of NFTs or whatever.
Yeah.
What could we have built? That's what we'll think of it as.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We didn't mention the Bank of Canada. I will mention that we had Bank of Canada today, and things are getting tough here in the housing market. And I think dollar CAD is one of your better trades out there right now. Like I said, I'm a dollar bull, and there is a big time divergence happening in these two economies right now. Now, I don't know if I want to step in front of it with what we were talking about with war and oil. That could obviously be a bit of a wild card for the Canadian dollar, but it's breaking out today. I don't think that March high is going to be putting up too much resistance. And I think the Canadian data is going to start rolling over here because the housing market is, and that has been a very, very big part of the Canadian economy for a long time.
I have like a weekly breakout here that had checked this week, and we should at least take out, what was this, 140?
It can run. And when the data gets bad, the market's pricing in Bank of Canada hikes next year, or at least a good chance of a hike in March. I'll take the entirely opposite side of that trade. And a lot of cuts, I think, are coming next year.
Okay. So you want long-term, you want to stay long this pair.
You're not and looking I've been a Canadian dollar bull for, I don't know how long, but I've been bearish now for a while, and I'm quite boisterous about it, I'd say right now.
Okay. And one thing I did want to ask you about, because I think this was probably more important than what's been happening in oil, is, to me, we had this huge base in natural gas, Adam, that it finally broke out of the last week or so. And that gas looks pretty attractive, if I could find it.
It is, if you like volatility. Speaking of volatility,
do you
it's
do you have
at
a
this
good
point,
fundamentals?
there's a seasonal trade that's strong right now. I like to be long natural gas into kind of the first cold weather in New York is my favored trade, and then you kind of fade it from there and trade the weather beyond that. We're pricing in a very mild winter because of El Nino.
Here in the West, wet and warm, but throughout the whole continent, it's going to be that way. Warm winter.
I think it's pretty wet and volatile in the South, but the South isn't drawing that much natural gas. It's sort of the Midwest and Northeast. That is the heart of your gas demand, and it's supposed to be a bit warmer with El Nino, but the weather's the weather. Europe seems a bit complacent. I would be a bit more constructive on like TTF or some,
because they had a warm winter last week, and they're looking for it possibly so their recency bias could get them in trouble
big time. And Russia is not, Russia will may crank it up in this war in terms of attacking energy infrastructure. So
look at Goldman Sachs too. Isn't
what a poorly run company? Can you get like a 10-year on that? How far does this go back? Like
This is
how,
a weekly. Um,
this is a company, it has recruited like the best and brightest for I don't know how long, and it's just done nothing.
they didn't hire me. Hey, Adam, I had to go work for JT Marlin. Ever hear that company?
Never heard of JT Marlin.
Oh, well, you have to
Sounds
watch
like a
Boiler.
fishing outfit.
Yeah, you have to watch Boiler Room. Okay, that was a chop shop. Uh, in New Jersey. It wasn't even in New York. But it's fiction. Um, but you want to see? Here's your. This goes back to 2010.
That's coming out of the bottom. I mean, if you go back further, it's
Yeah.
just been dead money for so long. With I don't know what a waste of like brain power, because they recruited I don't know how many smart people there, and it was just to make money. It wasn't in the pursuit of any kind of nobler aims. Or Lloyd Blankfield finds God's work, he said, but they haven't done well in capital markets. They haven't done well
Yeah.
for shareholders, and they
Yeah.
just sucked up all these. It's a tragedy.
Do you like uranium? It had a hell of a run the last quarter, and it's they're all kind of pulling back, but
It stings me, uranium. I was making this trade in like 2013. Very bullish on your thought coming out of Fukushima. There's no other alternative.
Yeah.
The green energy, we have to do this. You can't
Yeah.
get away from the need for nuclear power. And it took like 10 years to actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I long abandoned it. I like it. I mean, I'm big on the energy trade. I think energy is the trade of the decade, and how we do this green transition, all the obstacles, all the bumbling, how much energy the world needs, even transmission lines, the mining around it. And, more and more people, I think, have come to the obvious conclusion, like I said, 10 years ago that I did, that you have to have nuclear power to make it work. It's safe, it's effective, zero emissions,
Right.
can be placed almost anywhere. And it's finally happening. But again, I mean, I don't know, the supply side is there are a lot of idle mines. There is a lot of uranium in the world.
Okay.
So, but I do like in any kind of nuclear power trades, probably better like an engineering company trade if I had to make one on that. Or maybe I don't know, some mining.
So there's a chart on
Well,
the
it
spot
used to
uranium.
be like, this is a Canadian company, right? And it used to be like a different name and a different thing, and it was in Canada. It's been doing this forever, and it finally got enough interest, and now I think they have a US listing, or they're almost going to have a US listing, because this is a Canadian listing now, and it's obviously doing really well.
Yeah, strong.
But boy, what a
Well, I
long
mean, the
wait.
only thing we didn't cover is
I
cannabis stocks. I think we've covered the
Yeah,
whole
sure.
board, man. So, all
Yeah.
right, we're winding down. We're coming into the last couple months of the year, where you get all kinds of cross currents, and we have this potential powder keg in the Middle East. I kind of believe, after following Netanyahu's career
He's on
for
the
the
wire.
last, yeah, he came to Congress to try and sell the idea of stopping Iran's nuclear program, that a deal wasn't going to do it. And it's late in his career. He's going to have problems once the war is over, because they're going to look and say, how did that happen? Right. So if he's ever going to, have his day in the sun, which has been to take out Iran because they promised to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, I don't think he's going down without a conflict
Well,
with
and
Israel.
I guess that, what would ask, I guess what I'm thinking, and I was thinking about this too, and I feel like I must be going crazy trying to figure out the Middle East.
Yeah.
But all these headlines today, and these U.S. warships, and kind of loading up missile defenses, you wonder if U.S. is trying to spring something on Iran. Obviously, with Israel, or maybe Israel does more of the heavy lifting, or
Yeah,
provide some
we
cover.
escort him.
But what can you? I'll ask you as an American: can you sell to Americans, we're going to war with Iran because Iran-sponsored terrorists attacked Israel? Like, is that enough of a sales job in a country that's pretty war weary?
Yeah.
And but you know what it's like in Congress right now.
Yeah.
You know, is that a strong enough sales job to do anything that's really going to be lasting in Iran?
No,
Or maybe, you
China
plot
would
Iran enough and they
China would be an
counterattack.
easier China would be an easier sell to the American public because they've
Then
been
that,
demonized quite a bit. You know, of going back
come
to,
on, God forbid we go to war with China.
yeah. Well, I mean, these are all client states. Don't you think China may have encouraged Iran to let their troops go and do this because Israel was on the verge of a peace
Certainly,
accord with
absolutely.
Saudi Arabia?
Well,
Someone
that
didn't
was
want
interesting.
that.
That came, and all these it's very interesting. I don't know, man. We have to
Hey,
put the tinfoil
one more
hats
thing
on.
that no one has been able to answer for me. You know that national emergency test that we had here in the
Sure.
U.S.
I
for like
remember.
I don't know, an hour. It went on everyone's cell phones and on their any device. It was a test. Well, there was one other country that was included in the test, and it was Israel.
Hmm.
Out of all the countries, I mean, you're our neighbor to the north. You would figure
Yeah,
if there's an emergency, we share the same continent. No, it was Israel. Do you know why? Or did you even know that happened?
I had no idea.
You know what, Adam? It's probably nothing.
Well, I think, and I just look at it like we talked about the risk reward right now on oil. I just think at 83, I mean, it was kind of rallying as we talked, maybe 85. It's pretty good. I
Yeah,
don't know if there's that much downside.
yeah,
So if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I kind of like
yeah.
that as a trade right now. And
And
then
maybe
I don't mind losing money
the
on that.
pure energy is better than buying any shares because you know what it's like that if the market has a liquidity problem, they'll sell everything. They may
But
hold
like
up better.
USO isn't exactly reliable
Yeah. So
anyway. Yeah,
probably just go pure
yeah,
WTI on that one. I think, buy options, buy calls, have
yeah. The
limited
future.
risk. Go out there and buy like next
Look at that.
year.
It's three lower or higher lows there, from the
Yeah,
bottom
right here. I
here.
mean, you have a nice formation. We're probably talking about it because I don't think things are going to stay at a standstill trying to get out all 200 hostages in Gaza for too much
Oh,
longer.
oh yeah, I guess Prime Minister Netanyahu right now says we're preparing a ground invasion. I won't give details. The timing will be reached by consensus. I mean, it's
Yeah,
coming,
yeah.
and yeah, I know there's no way those hostages
Oh,
are
and
coming.
public opinion, especially since they've been releasing hostages, is going to completely turn against Israel.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't try
It
to
will.
predict public opinion or the Middle East,
Yeah.
but I
Well, it's
will
already
say,
happening. It's already happening. You should delay it indefinitely and go for the ceasefire to negotiate to get all the hostages out. And if they decide to go in, they're the villain now. It's already
but I
set up.
mean, I guess if you're the Israel or the U.S. and you want to fight Iran, is it going to get any better than right now? I mean, yeah, okay, you say it's worsening public opinion, but what's it going to be like in a month?
Yeah. So maybe you
Probably
go,
worse than now if it is worsening. So
maybe the
we'll
closest
see.
thing they could do for a tune-up would be to hit Hezbollah in
In
the
Lebanon,
north. They've
yeah, sure.
evacuated the whole countryside
Well,
up
that I mean,
north.
that seems kind of like that's coming too. And that, but kind of the whole thinking was that would be like dominoes, but maybe the U.S. just springs something on Iran. I don't know if they
Yeah,
can sell that though. I really
yeah.
don't know if they can sell that, but
Well,
it's never stopped the war hawks
wha-
before.
that's right. That's right. You know, weapons. All we have to do is go back to the weapons of mass destruction that were never in Iraq,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So anyway, bro, interesting times. I think that's a Chinese saying. May you live in interesting times. It's kind of a curse.
Yeah.
We're
There's nowhere to hide right now. I mean, look at bonds, even on a day like today, bonds blowing up. I mean, it is very difficult to find anywhere to hide right now.
yeah,
Bitcoin, gold, I guess,
yeah,
energy.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I actually am long a little bit of this. I bought it yesterday right here, and I have one. I have two. See, the picture has changed. This is the ETF. Just go right to TLT.
Yeah, I
The
got you.
picture has changed compared to where we were before we took out this low. I knew we had to take out this low at 90. Okay. We're not making new lows on the RSI on the weekly.
I mean, 5% real money. I mean, that's a real return.
Look at the RSI here, Adam. At the October low, it was like a little over 20. So even if we made new lows go to like 80 here, there's no way the RSI is going to take out 30. I'm a buyer of TLT's derivative at new lows this week or next, because I think there's so many shorts out there that it's not going to take much to generate a squeeze. Now,
yeah, I mean that is
it's a shot. You know, it's
especially
my oil
I
shot.
like the short end.
You buy oil. You buy oil. I'll try the bonds.
Oil, bonds, gold, Bitcoin,
Yeah,
and Lockheed Martin and General Dynamics. Oh, that's
right, and food and water and
hopefully
ammo.
not. Hopefully not. Don't mind losing money.
You brought a lot. Yeah, you brought a lot of ammo here today, Adam. Thanks so much. It's great talking to you. I want people to follow your work at Forex Live. You know, Adam's a prolific writer, and him and his crew are always around for the major news events to give you excellent coverage. And go there and check them out at Forex Live or forexlive.com, and follow Adam on Twitter at FX_button.
You got it.
All right.
Thanks, Bill. Like right
Hey,
back at you.
Great talking to you, Adam. Thank you.
All right.
All right. My trading warrior
Peace.
brother, Adam
Peace to the
Button. You heard
world.
of, yeah, peace. I'm for it. I'm for it too, bro. Adios, Adam. Thank you, bro.